Ever walked into a room and felt completely invisible? Not because you lost your beauty, but because the world stopped noticing? This one color might change everything. Have you ever felt like you were fading? Not in spirit, but in the eyes of others. At 65, we don't lose our light, but sometimes that light gets dimmed by prejudice, time, and the wrong color choices. But here's the beautiful truth. Science has shown that just changing the color of your clothing can change how the world sees you. No need for heavy makeup. No need for designer dresses. Just the right colors that flatter your maturing skin, and suddenly, you're truly seen again. In today's video, I'll share 8 scientifically proven colors that help women at 65 look more radiant, magnetic, and confident, just like Joanne Miller, who turned navy blue into her signature comeback shade. Color communicates faster than words and becomes more powerful after age 65. In the field of cognitive aging and social psychology, one of the most underappreciated yet scientifically significant tools for older adults, especially women over 65, is color. Research led by Harvard's Department of Social Neuroscience in 2022 established that color is responsible for up to 85% of first impressions in social settings. In aging populations, especially those over 60, the brain relies more heavily on visual cues, making color a dominant signal in how individuals are perceived and responded to in everyday interactions. This phenomenon has practical consequences. Across regions such as the Midwest and American Southwest, areas known for strong community-based social life, elderly women often report feeling invisible in public spaces. This is not merely anecdotal. A 2023 study published in Psychology and Aging found that 63% of women aged 60 to 75 described a decline in being noticed or acknowledged socially compared to when they were in their 40s and 50s. What changes? Often it is not personality, posture, or social desire, but color choices. As facial features soften and contrast fades with age, muted tones and ill-matched clothing shades can cause even vibrant women to appear less engaged, less visible, and ultimately overlooked. One illustrative case involves Joanne Miller, a 66-year-old former banking executive from Santa Fe, New Mexico. At a community health forum, she appeared withdrawn, wearing taupe and ash-gray layers that blended into the background. A month later, after a local stylist and color analyst conducted a free workshop on color and aging skin tones, Joanne returned, this time in a deep navy wrap with a soft ivory scarf. The transformation was immediate and observable. People who had previously passed her by approached her with conversation, and she remained visibly more engaged throughout the session. What changed was not Joanne herself, but how she was visually perceived due to the strategic use of color. Navy blue, long recognized in color psychology as a tone that communicates trust and competence, softened her features without draining her complexion. Ivory, used near the face, created light reflection that enhanced skin tone and drew attention to her expression. Such cases demonstrate that color, when applied with understanding, acts as a psychological amplifier. It helps reintroduce mature women into the social dialogue, not by altering who they are, but by making visible what already exists. Clinicians, psychologists, and stylists working with women in this demographic are increasingly aware. Color is not just fashion. It is visibility, identity, and vitality, grounded in science. Especially after the age of 65, when many experience a shift in social roles or public recognition, the intentional use of color becomes a subtle yet powerful strategy for enhancing well-being. The brain sees color before it sees shape, and for the aging woman, color can be the bridge between being seen and being remembered. Observed in clinical practice and supported by color science, after the age of 65, the skin undergoes notable physiological and aesthetic changes. These shifts are not only natural but scientifically measurable, and they directly influence how women are perceived in both private and public settings. Dermatological studies conducted by the Mayo Clinic and supported by the American Academy of Dermatology confirm that collagen production decreases by approximately 30% after menopause, resulting in a loss of elasticity, skin thinning, and increased transparency. Pigmentation becomes uneven. Undertones shift from golden or rosy to more muted or sallow tones, and natural contrast, particularly around the eyes and mouth, softens dramatically. As a result, many women unknowingly begin to look less defined in photographs, social gatherings, and even casual interactions. What often appears as tired or washed out is, in fact, a visual consequence of wearing colors that no longer align with one's mature skin tone. This phenomenon was clearly illustrated in a community color therapy session in Asheville, North Carolina, involving Sharon Lewis, a 69-year-old retired art teacher. Once known for her vibrant wardrobe, she had gradually shifted to muted earth tones, believing they were more age-appropriate. However, during the workshop, she was invited to try on a soft peach blouse, paired with a scarf in dusty rose, both shades chosen for their ability to reflect warmth onto cooler, thinning skin. The results were striking. When viewed under controlled lighting conditions, her complexion appeared noticeably smoother and brighter. Attendees commented on the visible lift in her eyes and warmth in her cheeks. Sharon's posture even shifted during the session, becoming more upright and engaged. Color psychologists note that warm-based tones such as soft peach, coral blush, muted salmon, and warm ivory counteract the dulling effects of age-related skin tone flattening. These colors reflect light onto the skin's surface, diffusing shadows and enhancing natural facial structure. Additionally, these hues tend to harmonize with silver and white hair, creating visual coherence rather than competition. The importance of this adjustment goes beyond appearance. In numerous behavioral studies, participants interacting with older adults dressed in warm, light-reflective colors reported higher levels of trust, warmth, and approachability. It is essential, then, that women in their late 60s are not merely told to add color, but are guided toward tones that restore lost contrast and support their natural glow. Skin is not failing. It is evolving, and the colors chosen must evolve with it. When used correctly, color becomes less about fashion and more about restoring definition, identity, and vitality, all crucial to aging with presence, confidence, and connection. Clinical observations and psychological alignment with color identity. In the realm of mature style and psychological well-being, one of the most common missteps observed among women over 65 is the belief that fashion trends dictate which colors to wear. This assumption, although reinforced by seasonal marketing, overlooks two critical components: individual skin undertones and emotional resonance with color. The American Psychological Association, APA, has long studied the cognitive-emotional relationship between color and identity. Color does more than decorate. It communicates mood, self-worth, and memory. Yet in practice, many women fall into the habit of mimicking current style palettes, such as charcoal, neon, or ultra-muted tones, that may clash with their natural features or suppress their inner vitality. This disconnect was notably visible in the case of Carolyn Wyatt, a 72-year-old former choir director from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Known in her community for her kindness and artistic sensibility, Carolyn began adopting minimalist fashion based on what she saw online: taupe sweaters, charcoal tunics, and oversized neutrals. Over time, her loved ones noticed a shift, not just in style, but in presence. During a regional wellness fair, Carolyn participated in a color clarity workshop led by licensed aesthetic counselors and gerontology specialists. After a professional color draping session, it was determined that Carolyn had a warm neutral undertone with golden peach undertones, which the dominance of ashy grays and cool tones had dulled. When presented with a burnished coral top paired with soft gold accessories, her complexion visibly brightened. Even more notably, her demeanor changed. She became more expressive and talkative, and her eyes reflected a sense of recognition, almost as if she were reconnecting with a version of herself that had been muted. These observations align with findings from the Journal of Color Psychology, which confirm that individuals experience higher emotional congruence and social engagement when wearing tones that match their undertone and personal energy style. For women with golden or olive undertones, warm colors such as terracotta, coral, olive green, and soft amber can enhance their natural skin tone. For those with cool pink or blue undertones, lavender, teal, and sapphire add contrast and light. Trend cycles often ignore these individual truths. What appears on runways in New York or digital feeds in Los Angeles may not suit the unique biology or emotional reality of a retired teacher in Des Moines or a former nurse in Seattle. From a clinical standpoint, color should be viewed not as an external decoration, but as an extension of identity. Women over 65 benefit most, both emotionally and visually, when guided to colors that align with their lived experiences, inner temperament, and natural skin chemistry. The goal is not to follow the latest fashion trends. The goal is to find alignment, where who someone is and how they are seen come together in harmony. Case-based application of color psychology in mature women. In a senior wellness program held in Portland, Oregon, a striking transformation was observed during a session on color as communication. Among the attendees was Frances Delaney, a 67-year-old former high school principal known for her commanding intellect, but who had been increasingly overlooked since her retirement. Frances spoke softly, dressed in muted grays and deep browns, believing they were age-appropriate and professional. But when a certified color analyst introduced her to a curated set of colors grounded in psychological theory, everything shifted. Frances tried on 8 garments, each in a distinct hue, and documented her emotional and social response across several community events in the following weeks. The data was personal, but profoundly illuminating. 1. Navy blue, the trust anchor. Psychological studies consistently identify navy blue as a trust color associated with professionalism, wisdom, and credibility. For mature women, it offers depth without harshness. Frances wore a tailored navy blazer to a town hall and was immediately approached by 3 community members who sought her opinion on local education issues. Role: builds respect, restores authority, softens age lines. 2. Soft peach, the radiance reviver. Warm, low-saturation tones, such as soft peach, reflect light onto aging skin, reviving the complexion and evoking a youthful softness. At a church brunch, Frances paired a peach blouse with pearl earrings. Attendees complimented her glow, unaware of any wardrobe shift. Her confidence visibly lifted. Role: brightens skin, softens wrinkles, increases approachability. 3. Emerald green, the energy conductor. This jewel tone evokes a sense of vitality and connection to nature. Neurologically, green reduces cortisol and boosts positive emotion. Frances wore an emerald cardigan while volunteering at a botanical garden. Not only did she feel invigorated, but visitors said she looked like she belonged among the trees. Role: signals, wellness, emotional openness, environmental harmony. 4. Royal purple, the dignity enhancer. Historically associated with royalty, purple symbolizes wisdom, independence, and quiet power, making it an ideal choice for formal events. Wearing a royal purple wrap to her niece's engagement party, Frances was greeted with admiration and presence, even among a younger crowd. Role: elevates elegance, validates life experience, commands graceful attention. 5. Classic red, the identity reclaimer. Red activates the sympathetic nervous system. Heart rate rises, eyes widen. It says, I exist. Frances had avoided red for years, fearing it was too loud. But in a crimson blouse at a senior book club, heads turned. Strangers smiled. She was not loud. She was alive. Roll. Ignites confidence, asserts visibility, energizes mood. 6. Rich Burgundy. The sophistication shield. Aged skin tones often lose contrast. Burgundy restores balance while adding emotional depth. At a museum fundraiser, Frances wore a burgundy velvet scarf. It framed her face, lent warmth, and inspired two people to ask where she bought it. Roll. Adds structure, invokes depth, supports social poise. 7. Sunny yellow. The mood brightener. Yellow, when softened and warmed, becomes the color of laughter, curiosity, and gentle optimism. Frances tried a marigold tunic during a summer picnic. Children flocked to her, and a younger woman told her, "You look like sunshine." Roll. Enhances joy, fosters lightness, reconnects with playfulness. 8. Pure Ivory. The quiet statement. Unlike stark white, ivory has warmth and subtlety, blending harmoniously with aging features. At a community lecture, Frances wore an ivory knit top with slate slacks. She didn't shout presence, she exuded it. Roll. Calms, clarifies, elevates without excess. Each color. Frances explored corresponded not just with an aesthetic benefit, but also with a specific psychological outcome, validated by her behavioral changes and the responses of those around her. Clinicians and aesthetic specialists working with mature populations increasingly recommend a tailored color strategy as part of their well-being protocols. This approach moves beyond vanity. It's about restoring visibility, identity, and interpersonal resonance. The right color is not decoration. It is a mirror, showing the world not just how one looks, but color psychology becomes most potent when it steps off the page and into lived experience. Across multiple states and communities, 8 women, each over the age of 65, each with distinct lives, have rediscovered visibility and confidence through a single, transformative hue. 1. Navy blue. For Judith, 70, Pennsylvania, retired librarian. After decades behind bookshelves, Judith felt lost in retirement. At a university alum event, she wore a structured navy blazer over a white blouse. Peers approached her like she was still directing the reading room. The navy returned her presence and respect. 2. Soft peach. For Maria, 68, California, former interior designer. Maria had spent her life making spaces beautiful, but she neglected her reflection. A client gifted her a soft peach silk scarf. She wore it to a wine tasting in Napa. Strangers complimented her skin tone. For the first time in years, she accepted every photo taken that day. 3. Emerald green. For Claudine, 66, Louisiana, community health volunteer. Claudine's days were filled with helping others, but fatigue dulled her spirit. One spring morning, she wore an emerald green dress to a church fundraiser. People said she glowed. Her granddaughter whispered, "You look like a tree come alive." Emerald reminded her of her rooted strength. 4. Royal purple. For Ellen, 71, New York City, retired judge. Ellen's wardrobe had always been black, navy, and gray. At her granddaughter's piano recital, she wore a royal purple cashmere wrap. A young man stood to offer her his seat. She felt elegant, like royalty, without needing a crown. 5. Classic red. For Teresa, 69, Arizona, former political campaigner. Teresa had not worn red since her 30s. At a friend's retirement gala, she chose a red wrap dress. The compliments were non-stop. "I felt like myself again," she later shared with her stylist. Red didn't shout. It simply said, "She's back." 6. Rich burgundy. For Denise, 72, Illinois, widowed art teacher. After losing her husband, Denise avoided social events. One evening, she wore a burgundy velvet shawl to an art auction. A stranger said, "You look deeply peaceful." That night, Denise spoke with 3 new people. Burgundy became her comfort color and her conversation starter. 7. Sunny Yellow. For Maxine, 65, Florida, jazz vocalist. Maxine's voice still sparkled, but she said she disappeared in beige. At a garden performance, she wore a canary yellow tunic. Children clapped louder. Older women smiled knowingly. She laughed. "I think the color sang before I did." 8. Pure Ivory. For Charlene, 73, Washington, retired therapist. Charlene hosted a grief support group. Her ivory wrap top became her ritual piece, calming, clean, grounding. Participants often commented, "You look safe." Ivory didn't decorate her. It reflected her compassion. These 8 women didn't follow trends. They followed the color that mirrored their inner voice. When matched with a story, psychology becomes memory, and memory becomes identity. How one deserves to be seen. For women over 65, making bold changes to personal style can feel overwhelming, financially, emotionally, and practically. But according to studies in gerontological psychology and visual perception, even a single strategically chosen garment or accessory in the right color can dramatically shift how others respond, and more importantly, how a woman feels about herself. This principle was illustrated vividly during a style and wellness workshop in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where participants were encouraged to bring just one neutral outfit, anything they already wore regularly. Each attendee was then given a curated scarf or blouse in a personalized, psychologically supportive color. Among them was Beatrice Hammond, a 74-year-old retired pharmacist and widow who typically dressed in taupe sweaters and khaki slacks. She had not experimented with color in over 2 decades, believing neutral was safe. Her assigned item was a burnt coral scarf, selected to enhance her faded warm undertones and draw attention upward toward her eyes. During the session, Beatrice was photographed twice, once in her original outfit, once with the scarf gently tied near her neckline. The contrast was startling. The addition of color brightened her complexion, lifted her expression, and softened visible age lines. More notably, her posture changed. She smiled. She spoke more. She leaned in. In the week that followed, Beatrice wore the scarf during a community lunch and again at the pharmacy alum meetup. In both cases, she was approached more often, received more compliments, and was even asked if she had done something new to her hair. Nothing else had changed. Only one piece of color. Color theorists explain this as visual anchoring, where a bright or harmonizing shade draws the eye to the most expressive parts of the body, usually the face and hands. For aging individuals, where contrast naturally diminishes, this anchoring becomes essential to remaining visually present in group settings. Moreover, introducing a single piece reduces decision fatigue and anxiety about costs. A coral scarf, a sapphire brooch, or an emerald blouse paired with existing neutrals offers transformation without the burden of reinvention. The takeaway is clear. Mature women need not overhaul their wardrobe to reclaim their presence. They need only one intentional piece, chosen not for its trendiness, but for its truth. When the color is right, even the smallest detail becomes a catalyst for reconnection with self and with others. In later life, many women experience a silent shift. Their voices, once central in family, work, and community, begin to fade, not from volume, but from visibility. Sociologists refer to this phenomenon as the quieting of presence, a common stage in older adulthood where being heard becomes more difficult, not due to what is said, but how one is perceived. Yet research in color psychology shows that visual cues, especially those worn on the body, can restore a sense of presence without a single word spoken. One compelling example comes from Irene Caldwell, a 76-year-old former sign language interpreter from Boise, Idaho. After retirement, Irene began attending city council meetings as a concerned resident, hoping to advocate for better accessibility services. But during her first year, she described feeling invisible. Despite speaking clearly and respectfully, she was often overlooked during Q&A sessions, while younger attendees were acknowledged more readily. Everything changed when a friend gifted Irene a royal purple shawl, explaining that it symbolized dignity and wisdom in color theory. Irene, skeptical but open-minded, wore the shawl to her next meeting. Before she even stood to speak, multiple people turned to look at her. One council member later said, "You seemed important, like someone we should pay attention to." Irene's message that evening was no different, but the way she was seen, and therefore heard, shifted. She continued to wear color intentionally and noticed the same effect at public events, even in casual settings like coffee shops or bus stops. Studies by the University of Colorado's Department of Human Behavior confirm that color acts as a visual amplifier, particularly in older women. When voice and energy decline, colors like emerald, crimson, or sapphire serve as nonverbal signals that trigger attention and social engagement. These tones are biologically processed faster than spoken language, activating memory, emotional response, and even perceived credibility. For women over 65, whose narratives are often overshadowed in youth-driven spaces, color becomes a silent language, a way to announce, "I have something to say," before a single sentence is uttered. The recommendation from experts is not to dress louder, but to dress with intention. Color, when worn near the face, creates micro-connections, eye contact, smile exchanges, and the subtle invitation for dialogue. In a world that often quiets older women, color becomes their amplifier. Not decoration, not fashion, but presence. By age 65 and beyond, appearance is no longer about impressing others. It's about expression. For many women, color is not just aesthetic. It is identity reclaimed. This truth emerged clearly during a wellness retreat held in Missoula, Montana, where retired women gathered to explore confidence through self-presentation. Among them was Darlene Whitaker, age 73, a former hospice counselor who had spent a lifetime listening to others' stories but rarely expressing her own. For most of her retirement, Darlene had dressed in beige and navy, the same palette she wore at work. "It kept me neutral," she once said. But at the retreat, she was invited to try a deep sapphire blouse with a soft sheen. What happened next was subtle, but unforgettable. Her posture lifted, her voice steadied, and when she walked into the shared dining room, multiple attendees turned to greet her, smiling, nodding, acknowledging her without hesitation. No words had changed, only color. This incident exemplifies what psychologists refer to as symbolic visibility. In aging populations, particularly women, there is often a sense of emotional invisibility, not from absence, but from being visually dismissed. Color, used with intention, functions as a mirror and a megaphone, reflecting inner worth while projecting it outward into the world. Research from Stanford's Aging and Identity Lab found that women over 65 who wore affirming, personalized colors reported a 38% increase in self-confidence and a stronger sense of being accurately perceived by others. In essence, the color wasn't making them someone new. It was revealing who they had always been. A cultural shift is emerging, from hiding in neutral safety to standing in radiant truth, not to seek attention, but to honor presence. Each woman carries a palette that aligns not only with her skin tone, but also with her story, shaped by decades of caregiving, career building, love, loss, and resilience. And when that palette is worn, something powerful happens. A woman is no longer dressing to be younger. She's dressing to be understood. Darlene now wears that sapphire blouse on days when she teaches grief meditation at her local senior center. She doesn't explain why. She doesn't need to. The color speaks for her. Ultimately, color is not about standing out. It's about blending in. It's about standing true. Because the most beautiful thing a woman can wear after 65, it is the honest expression of who she's become. There is a moment, quiet but unforgettable, when a woman over 65 looks into the mirror and sees herself not as someone getting older, but as someone finally becoming whole. A scarf doesn't change a life, but it can change a gaze. A blouse doesn't fix the world, but it can help the world see you more clearly. Because color isn't just on fabric. It's the language of memory, the echo of who you've been, the signal of who you still are. What we've shared tonight isn't a style guide. It's a reminder that even when society looks away, you still have the choice to determine how you present yourself. So now, let's not end the story. Let's pass it on. In the comments below, tell us, what color brings you home to yourself? What shade makes people stop and smile? If this story felt like a part of your own, share it with someone who needs to hear it. A daughter, a friend, a woman who's forgotten how luminous she truly is. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Not just for more videos, but for more moments like this, where truth meets tenderness, and beauty is defined by courage, not cosmetics. This isn't the end. It's your beginning, in full color. Thank you for letting us walk beside you. We'll be right here, every step, every shade. Until next time, be radiant, be real, and don't let anyone dim the light that time worked so hard to shape.